And welcome everyone to the first episode of Within the Scope. So, this is going to be a show about people on broadcast, or even players, to break down that wall we see where we get to know the people, know where they came from, what they do, and how they do it as well. For the first episode, I have the biggest pleasure to welcome Connor SCRAWNY Gervin. I think I got it right.
Yeah, damn right you did.
Okay, there you go. So this is the
Yeah.
first episode. Thank you so much for accepting. Nobody else accepted, so that's why. No, I'm kidding.
I'm imagining there's a long list of people and you just want me in for an icebreaker, okay? That's how
I
I
actually really wanted you and Banks as like the first one. I'm like, I need one of them because I think you guys have a cool story to tell about, and also you're not shy on camera. We've noticed
No.
that.
Although it's been a month, I have to say, we're in the middle of the player break for Counter-Strike, so like I haven't been on a broadcast or on a podcast or anywhere near a camera for a month, okay? So if there's a little rust, that's fine.
I got you. I got
Yeah.
you. So I want to understand. Tell me something. I'll call you Skrani through the episode. I want to
Yeah.
understand how did the fire get ignited to join CS:GO in terms on pro level, even if not the player as a caster. Where did it start?
Where did it start? Okay, so I discovered Counter-Strike through a friend of mine named Daniel, who, when I first built my PC, right, I was an Xbox gamer my entire life. Battlefield 3 comes out,
Oh,
and on console, it's only 64 players. On PC, it's like 128. So I decided I'm going to the PC build for the first time in my life. And when I built my PC to play Battlefield, the guys who taught me how to build the computer were like, you don't play Battlefield. If you have a PC, you play Counter-Strike.
oh.
Like that's the rule. Like you have to play Counter-Strike. So I got into it, man. I hated it. There was no creative class. There was no kill streaks. There was no customization really, you know. But that's how I first discovered CS, was through a friend named Dan. And igniting the fire, I think, just came from honestly starting to watch the pro scene. I got into it, and once I realized like the skill ceiling just from playing, I'm innately a competitive person, wanted to be the best. I remember telling myself, and my buddy Dan, who I still hang out with today, just always reminds me that once upon a time I told myself, if I can get to legendary Eagle Master, I will quit touching Counter-Strike. I'm done. That's all I needed, right? But then once you get there, it's like, okay, well, now I'll get Supreme, and now I'll get Global. Well, now at that time, I want to start playing collegiate Counter-Strike. I want to start getting in the competitive. Okay, what's ESCA? What's Face It? Like, I think I'm just like a naturally inquisitive person. But mix that in with competitiveness. And then that's why, like, I once had these delusions that maybe I could be a pro player.
Did
The
you ever
other things in my
compete?
life at the time just weren't interesting. So to me, Counter-Strike kind of became everything. Yeah.
Did you ever compete in Counter Strike?
So I played 2 lands in Montreal locally.
Yeah.
It's a anybody from Montreal's or anybody from the East Coast of Canada is going to know LAN ETS. Back in the day, it used to pull up like a lot of big faces, a lot of the guys that ended up going on to like Liquid for the last 5 years. Anybody from NACS, I feel like, has gone to ETS at least once. But I started going after that once it started to kind of become a smaller LAN, or once everything else got so much bigger in like 2016, 2017, 18, people stopped going. I went there once with my collegiate team. I was just playing online collegiate games. Decided to try to take it to LAN. We told our university we need tickets to the LAN and T-shirts, matching T-shirts. Okay, that's all we had. So then we carried our shit through the metro. We brought our own computers. We did our thing. We got dropped at like I think like top 64 out of like 200 teams or something. We didn't do that well. But I was the only person on the team like taking it that serious. I was the in-game leader. I was the opper. I was making sure that any strategies we had, I was coming up with them. Like my other buddies they were just playing games, but to me, I took it super seriously. And at that point, then I started to like talk to teams that were in like CEVO main. So the idea of like trying to go competitive was there, or trying to go professional or semi-professional, whatever. But at that exact same time is when my Reddit video blew up of me casting. So when that blew up, I kind of like got presented another avenue, right? Like before, playing was the only thing I knew because anybody can just download the game and play. But the moment that casting clip kind of blew up, I took that same like intuition, competitive nature, and just total interest, and I just dove into commentary instead, because between the two of them, I realized that like I have the skill set to be a caster much more so than I have the skill set to be a pro player.
Because I was studying about you before getting into this one, and I saw winnings on Liquipedia.
Hell yeah.
$56. I'm like, wait,
Hell
you go on
yeah.
simple, you go on Cadian, you see like a huge amount, and I go to you like 56. Like, did someone
56
pay him
bucks,
a
man.
coffee or like a
Yeah.
meal?
No, it was that was actually some online tournament we played a couple of years ago
Yeah.
with a caster stack. It was like me, Hugo Byron, Harry, Vendetta, and Maniac. And
Oh,
we just played some like online cup that anybody could sign up for. Richard Lewis actually commentated that game, and we got completely smashed by Zywoo's ex team
oh
on
my
Nuke.
gosh.
Yeah, we got killed. Like I think it was like we played like AAA, like 16-3 or something on Nuke, and it got broadcast. And I know I never got that $56 actually.
You didn't?
No, dude, that's esports. They
Oh,
never paid out.
exposed.
Yeah, dude.
Tell me something. Did you ever kill Zywoo in a map? Once, like once.
No, it was his old team, so it's like once he left.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, he
The
wasn't in
aftermath. Wait, you got
No.
smoked by the aftermath team?
By the aftermath, by Zywoo's leftovers.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, man.
Forget about those 56. Tell me another thing. Like, before all of this, like, you have a big passion for CSGO commentating and all that. But was it at any time, any sort of job you wanted to do outside of esports?
I think so I went to university for sociology and anthropology here in Montreal.
What?
Yeah, so I have like 90% of my degree is done, but then I dropped out when esports started to kick off
Okay.
because I wasn't I mean, I could have made the balance. If Kerrigan can get a master's while winning CS:GO events, then I definitely could have gotten mine. But I'm not that kind of person. I'm all in on one thing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I went to school for a few years for sociology. I was getting into criminal rehabilitation. I was working in a prison as well, like right before.
I want to know more about that. I have that question. Like, you work as a prison
Yeah,
guard?
yeah. Well, not a guard, but
Okay.
a supplies and services officer. So it's like, imagine a storeroom full of stuff, clothing, soaps, you know, anything that a prisoner is going to need in order to just stay clean and stay clothed. You've got to keep track of all that stuff, or else people, you know, will steal it, right?
Yeah.
Everything inside the walls is a commodity. So my job was essentially to just stay on top of a giant storeroom and a laundromat and make sure that no inmates that I was working next to were stealing things. And my goal was to get in with a job like that and then to shift over towards, like, you know, the social programs and the school inside the prison. Like, I wanted to help people, not watch people. So that was kind of my that was the path I think I was on right before CS:GO.
So you were the dealer inside of the prison.
Hell yeah.
The legal.
The legal dealer. Yeah, exactly. You know, when new guys show up and they need, you know, 3 pairs of socks, what sizes do you need, whatever.
It's
like,
you.
They would go, they'd be talking to me. Yeah.
So you were loved on that job, no?
No, because you're also the guy who has to say no.
Oh.
Yeah.
You were hated.
So, yeah, a little bit of both. A little bit of both.
Okay, now we can jump into CSGO, and there's a big topic because once you get into the craft of CSGO, there's a big blanket that separates play-by-play from analysts and other games like League of Legends. If you go into those games, you can definitely feel the difference between a play-by-play and an analyst. On
Sure.
CSGO, like, it's kind of different because it's so fast-paced that you need to cover out of a sudden the analyst or the play-by-play. But you and Launders work in a different way. Like, you can definitely feel like the play-by-play and the analyst as well. How did you start with that synergy?
Yeah, so Mohan and I have always, since the start of our duo, which goes on for like 6 years now, essentially, we have always made it clear that we believe in a certain philosophy of commentary. There are duos that definitely hybrid incredibly well, and I always use the example of like Harry and Hugo because they've been together as long as we have, and we have just 2 different approaches to commentary in that regard, right? They flow in between each other, they finish each other's sentences, they'll pass it back and forth, they can pass it back and forth whenever they need to, whenever they want to, they can step on each other's toes, you know, they have much more of that like ball of energy back and forth kind of vibe. But Mohan and I, from the start of all this, we decided that our approach to commentary was going to be the traditional sports roles of one play-by-play and one color commentator, and that we were going to have that rigid separation between the 2 of us, because there is no way that Launders will ever be as good as me at play-by-play. And there is no way that I will ever be as good at Mohan when it comes to color casting. So with that as like our defining golden rule, we just decided that we will each focus on our own strengths
Mhm.
and one another will cover for the other person's weaknesses. And then somewhere in the middle, after all of this time, when you've got a slow game, that's when you start to mix in humor. That's when you start to mix in synergy. All these other things just start to come naturally. And it's not like, there won't be a moment where Mohan has to do something like a play-by-play. But our golden rule has always been, we will keep it separate. We will both improve at what we do really well. And we will leave the other one to do their thing and just trust them to, I trust Mohan is going to become a better caster every single time that we cast, and he has that trust to me. And that's why I don't talk to him about play-by-play strategies, because he doesn't need that information. I will talk to other play-by-play casters, or I will go out and, observe other commentators and extract what I need to, etc. So yeah, we've always just decided that because he wasn't a strong, I always say Mohan's one of the worst casters naturally. He's one of the worst casters in CSGO. And he knows that.
Really?
But that's the beauty of it, is he is the hardest working, because naturally he is not that good. He doesn't have the skill set to be a good caster. And if you go back 5 years, dude, he should have abandoned it for the analyst desk. But through hard work and improvement and a partnership, etc., look how much better he is now. So yeah, we just said focus on your strengths. And that's kind of been what we've always done.
Because when I listen to the guy, it's like I'm inside of a classroom, but the teacher is actually cool. Like I like to learn with him.
I like that. That good analogy. Yeah,
it is like it's so interesting because you're the crazy guy. You go mental, and then comes in the cool teacher like, hey guys, about this, let me teach you. It feels so good. Like it seems like he picks up on so many things that other color casters don't pick up as well. Like his eyes going to parts of the map that we're not even paying attention. And this is something cool between you guys. Like you make sure that we are paying attention to a specific part of the map while Launders is looking into everything else. And when you break that thing down, he also picks it up and like, guys, this is what happened you didn't see. Or even if you saw what happened, let me just break it down to you. So how do you work this? Like how do you work the synergy between yourself? Like do you agreed on I'm a player, you're a caller, but do you work it together? Do you guys have like practices? How do you work this synergy?
Yeah. So I think another thing that we both agreed on pretty early on is that it never really feels good to be criticized. I think most people would agree that like being criticized, it's tough. It's tough to take on criticism. Now we live in a, this, we operate in a space where you have to be critical, one, of yourself. And if in my particular situation with a duo where both of us are interested in one another's best interests, you have to be critical of one another. So I say we have, most important thing there is actually trust. Again, just to repeat myself, like I trust that if there is something that needs to be worked on, Mohan will identify it himself and he will improve on it himself. If something really feels like we've got to talk about, every once in a while we will. Like if we go back to the start of 2023, we had a conversation during Katowice in January where we felt like our speech accuracy wasn't always 100%. So if you look back at some of the greatest casters ever, man, I feel like their speech accuracy is something that's what really separates an S tier commentator from a really good caster. Is how many times are you going to say an expression but mix up the end? How many times are you going to use the wrong word for a situation or use a word that doesn't necessarily apply to a situation, right? These are things that happen in speech all of the time. It's normal. But when you're a commentator, you're a professional speaker. So you shouldn't be making those mistakes. And that's something that I think in the last 6 months we worked, that's one example of like we had to take a step back. We were like right after a map where I know it happened to me a few times. And we just said like, okay, man, we have to set a goal together right now. This needs to be worked on. And we'll just say it one time and then trust each other. Like I said, trust each other that we'll focus on that and like, show the improvement. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to work with somebody who's going to be constantly nitpicking and finding these little things that he thinks I need to work on. And I know Mohan believes the same thing. It's more important to protect like the friendship between two people, the
Mhm.
good times and the laughter. You have to be having a good time with your co-caster in order to really provide a good product. So in order to protect that, we don't really criticize each other too often. In the big picture, every once in a while, we'll take a step back, make sure we know, what the other one's thinking. Or sometimes I've got some thoughts like, yo, I'm gonna try to do this a little bit more these next couple days. Or we'll take an event and I'll think to myself, okay, this event, I really want to work on like a theme in the casting. And then we'll have conversations. I'd also say like before broadcast, before the big games, you know, if you ask me what we're going to do before blast groups next week, bro, we're
Mhm.
going to go in there. It's the middle of the summer. We're coming off the player break, bunch of new rosters, no real consequences for some of the losses. Oh, you have to go to showdown instead of. So we're going to go in there pretty open-minded and just have fun and flow, right? If you ask me what we're doing the day before Paris, grand finals cast, that one's a little different, right? Going into the big games, the stadium games, the ones where, for all you know, you're about to have the greatest casting moment of your career.
Yeah.
Anytime that's on the line, that's when it's like we wake up early in the morning. In Paris, we went bouldering, for example, the morning of. We make sure to go do something together, grab a coffee, have a talk. All right, which players do you want to focus on today? Which
Mhm.
narratives do you think are going to, we're going to touch on? What happens if this person has a great map and then these storylines get canceled? At what point do we start to build the picture of Zaiwu and Vitality winning in Paris? When the stakes are higher, I think we really focus in and we have those talks. But otherwise, honestly, man, we just trust each other.
Give me one example of what you were just talking about. The idea where we have storylines. We're going to talk about X and Y, specifically about the major. Let's call the major. Let's call the finals.
Okay.
What were your storylines and how did you approach that final game?
Yeah, so I mean, that one was luckily for us because Vitality were there and the legends on Vitality. It was pretty simple to focus in on like Dupree being the only guy to have 5 majors, Zonic's 5th major as a coach being the greatest player of CS:GO. So right there you have two pieces of absolute undeniable history, right? So you can then attach those two names to history. History is
Yeah.
being made. You can tap back into Apex winning another major after all this time, despite him having to reinvent himself from once upon a time being a hard, thoroughbred entry fragger to now being a criticized in-game leader, somebody whose emotions can be too, does he have them in check? Does he have himself in control? Zaiwu, prodigy of the game,
Mhm.
born on the same day that the game gets released. Like, wins the last CS:GO major. I mean, you could write that. Sounds like something straight up out of a movie. Wins the last chance to finally get his when other legends like Nico never have one.
Yeah.
Zaiwu got his. The game, the chosen one is
The
what the
best in
is
the
what the
game,
French
right?
call him, right? They call him the chosen one. And so for that French crowd on home soil to be chanting his name as he lifts that trophy, I mean, that's incredible. Um, and then on the flip,
Hmm.
Gamer Legion, right? The other grand finalists, the team nobody expected to win, and obviously they couldn't handle that. But that's where you have a guy named Shuhei, uh, basically a kid in terms of in-game leadership, but one of the hottest prospects of IGLs in all of CS:GO at the moment, trying to prove himself after he wasn't picked up by the main team. So he's the guy that crafts all this success for Mouse's academy team. All the stars get taken, and the in-game leader gets left behind. But then go one major cycle later, and it's him that's in the grand finals. Like, we just touch on things like this. Nicknames. Sometimes if there's a big moment,
Hmm.
you want to try to drop a nickname for a player so that maybe that catches on. Um,
Do you have
those
like
things are.
nicknames set up before a game? Do you think about that? Do you write
Yeah,
them down?
I don't
Oh,
write them down, but yeah,
it's all yeah. As a
yeah,
player I play, so I was a player I play in League of Legends, and
sure.
the cool thing is I feel we are kind of crazy play by plays. We are not okay up here.
Yeah, okay, sure.
I don't
Yeah, yeah.
think
We're a
we're
little loose,
stable.
man.
Yeah, there's
No,
a
no,
a
no,
loose
no.
cannon.
Some are, some aren't.
Yeah. Talking about Zaiwu and going back to him, don't you look like Zaiwu could be the Disney princess of CSGO if Disney was actually good? You know?
Yeah, he could be. Yeah, I mean it's a Cinderella story.
It is.
Um,
It's
and
ridiculous.
I think like I think it was Gucci. Yeah, Gucci and Face It did a little documentary with Zaiwu maybe 6 months ago or so, where they went to his hometown and he talks about his upbringing and his life and how it's just him and his mom and his brother. And you know, like the old CS:GO player profiles where we would act kind of doing what you intend to do with this show, where people come on and talk about their history and their upbringing and their childhood, but doing it with this video element of exploring their hometown at the same time. You know, I think that really stirs up emotions more, right? It's more stimulating to be out there watching a docu type piece of content. Um, but he has an incredible story. And if you get to know Zaiwu, if you're lucky enough, like some of us are, to be around him at events, like he's just so incredibly humble. He is a good person. You can just see it in his interactions with everybody around him. He has a good soul, you know? So yeah, I love Zaiwu as like the poster boy of Counter-Strike. I think he represents the game incredibly well.
Yeah, it's like when I look into League, I look into Faker and I'm like, this is a good example of what a player can be. Like his personality, yep, what he thrives for. And then I look at CSGO and I saw Zaiwu rising from nothing and the cool kid at the beginning, and all of a sudden, boom, gets the major. I'm like, damn, this guy is Faker in CSGO. I know there's a big war between Simple, yada yada yada, like who's the best in the game, but I'm like, man, Zaiwu represents what we love. And it's so good that you have more people than one. That's what I love about CSGO. In League of Legends, look into Faker and like, yeah, it's Faker. In CSGO, there's a big war, and instantly you said good. Like, talk to me about it. Because I agree with you.
I think that you know, we talk about the greatest of all times, and in Counter-Strike, you know, there used to be eras, right? There were teams that dominated for a long period of time, but now that happens less. Interchangeable are the, you know, tier 1 trophy lifts. So now I feel like we're starting to fixate in on players instead. And I just, you know, I love competition. So to me, competition breeds drama. Drama breeds excitement. And so that excitement and that entertainment, it's all fuel to me as a commentator to tap into that, right? Zaiwu is too humble to be on the internet talking shit to Simple. But let's go back to, like, if we go back to Paris, right? Waro 2K, another hot prospect, crazy op player coming out of the CIS region. Talked a lot of shit to Simple back in the day. You know, had a tweet that specifically said, like, it may take me some time to get the chance, but there will come a time where on a big stage, I will beat you. You know, and this is somebody with no achievements, no accolades, no team around them, just an FPL star essentially that made this, like, who had the confidence to make that claim to one of the best, if not the best of all time. And then we get to Paris and he finally gets a chance to play against him and he does it. And he top frags the map and he shits on Simple, who goes like basically negative in rating, right? It's like, how long did that human being wait for a chance to prove his words and then did it, right? If Zaiwu talks shit on the internet, oh my God. I mean, that'd be beautiful. But like you're saying, we have a different style, right? He's a different kind of star. So he's the humble, you know, he's the humble one that for that reason may go on longer, right? I don't think there's an ego element to Zaiwu. I think he could be one of the most successful players in Counter-Strike history, assuming he switches to CS2 well, assuming his team continues to succeed, etc. But yeah, I just like that there's conversation around who's better, right? Like last year, like should Shiro have been, you know, should Shiro have actually been above maybe number 2? Should Zaiwu have been better than? It's like anytime there's that conversation, there's that dialogue, people are just interested, people are having conversations, and that's just better for the game because people are discussing things they care about.
And that creates such an easy storyline, which you love. As a play-by-play, storylines are like, give it to me.
Exactly.
So, talk to me about play-by-play. I actually contacted Londers before this episode to understand, like, what sort of questions would you like me to ask SCRAWNY? Like, what sort of personal questions? And I was waiting for like the sauce, and he simply goes like, "Hey, asking about his craft. It's so cool to watch. I want to know more about how does he work on play-by-play." I'm like, wait, I can ask him about everything, like the personal level, and it's like, yeah, but I want to know more about the play-by-play. So tell me about that craft. How do you build it up? Because not only you can be the funny guy, but also the hypey guy. And I know you still struggle with focus. Sometimes I've seen that one. But it's cool. You're like, the cool thing about you both is that it seems like a big friendship. But if I'm listening to it, I feel included. I don't feel outcast. And when
Mm,
I look into you guys, it's like Londres is a Samoyed, or even the Australian dog, which is really intelligent, and you're the golden
sure.
retriever. You're
All right, I'll
everywhere,
take it.
every
I'll take it.
time, But you're
Yeah,
cute, you're
yeah,
cute. So tell me about the play I play.
yeah. Okay. Well, just talk. I mean, all
How
right.
do you build yourself as a play I play?
I think a play-by-play first and foremost has to be excited. Um, you've got to be enjoying yourself because, like you said, like you feel included with us, right? And whether that's
Yeah.
Launders teaching you something as he speaks from teacher to student, and that's his style. Um, the one thing I'm trying to get across is the energy, because I remember. Okay, this is like a fundamental memory to me that fuels my casting. I remember being at home before I was ever a commentator, but starting to watch pro games and just losing my shit, just getting so invested in a game of Counter-Strike and getting so excited over an entry frag into a bomb site that suddenly opens the game up to where the underdog might actually make a comeback. Or the biggest one for me was like during the Boston E-League major when Cloud9 actually won, when North America won its only CSGO major. I remember physically being on my knees in front of my desk, almost praying that they were gonna win, right? That NA was gonna win. And I remember being so emotionally invested in that on a Discord call with like 3 or 4 of my buddies. And we were all just yelling, screaming, cheering. We weren't in attendance. We weren't there live. We weren't
Yeah.
actually riding the emotion of the crowd. And yet we were at home riding the emotions of a moment. Now that was just me as a viewer. So anytime that I get on a cast and I'm kind of feeling kind of maybe a little bored or maybe like, oh, this game's not the best for me, etc., I have to remind myself that there's somebody at home who is emotionally invested in the outcome of this game.
Damn.
And that person will feel as though that match is, so important to them, whatever. As a caster, as a play-by-play, I'm there to legitimize their feelings. In my mind, it's if you can be that excited staring at a screen in the room of your house, then me in the studio next to the players, etc., I'm there to make sure that you don't feel alone. I'm there to make sure that you have somebody to bounce that energy off of. And sometimes, one of the criticisms I get is like I'm overhyped. And I think that in the past of my casting, the sound of my voice has been overhyped. Like, I've learned how to reel it in, when to strain, when to really send it to a 10, when to get into these sounds, that kind of stuff. That's all things I've had to learn and improve on and navigate. And that's the craft of commentary, right? Like
Yeah.
these are things that you fine tune. But at the end of the day, at its core, I think that you have to be emotionally invested. And luckily for me, I'm a very emotional person. I'm a crybaby. TV shows make me cry, movies make me cry. Cute YouTube video, whatever it is, man. I cry frequently. I'm just emotional. So when I'm casting,
Yeah.
it that is me. It is. I know it's genuine. So that's why those criticisms never bothered me, because I know I'm being real.
Yeah.
I know I'm not being fake. I'll fake laugh sometimes. Maybe Launders isn't that funny, but the casting itself is genuine and it's
Yeah.
emotional, and I think that's what makes good play-by-play is emotions.
So tell me, I have two questions about that. One of them, just an easy one. When was the last time you cried then? Do you recall?
The last time I
Yeah,
cried,
yeah, yeah.
a couple days ago.
For what? About what? Can you share though? Yeah.
Yeah, I think honestly, man. I think I was rewatching Paris clips. I was
Oh,
rewatching Paris casting moments. Yeah,
that's an easy one.
Content,
Okay.
yeah, there's some content coming down the pipe from Blast about the Paris major,
Ooh.
and they sent me some pieces here and there. So
You felt it.
yeah. I mean, I'll relive those moments for the rest of my life,
Makes sense.
and I know that. I do the same thing with like Blast Fall Fine. The biggest moments of my casting career.
Yeah.
If I ever need to remind myself why I do this, why I'm leaving for a month at a time, why I don't get to be in my home and instead I'm off on the road, missing things, missing friends, dates, etc. I watch back casting moments and realize, that's why.
Okay. Now going back to the play, you were talking about how to go to a 10, how to develop your craft and all that. Like, talk to me about that one, because imagine there's someone at home that wants to be a player, that wants to work
Yeah.
on that craft. So I want to understand, how do you work on that? How do you set up? You sit down, you had the player break, but I know you worked a little bit on your craft. So tell me, how did you work? Like, you sat down on the chair, what did you do?
Yeah, well, nowadays I feel like I've got a really good base, you know. So I feel like I've been doing this job for 6 years. There's things I don't really do as much anymore. So when I first started, I was watching almost everything back.
Okay.
Constantly watch things back, because you're gonna find your bad habits. You're gonna find, you need to be reviewing your own work constantly in order to improve quickly. I think that's the key, right? Nowadays, I watch back VODs less frequently. Every once in a while, if you think like, man, I felt off today, that's a good, then watch that one back. Don't watch back your best stuff. Watch back your worst stuff, because that's when you're going to identify your weaknesses, right? I think any caster who's at home and wants to improve, realize what's causing your skill floor to fall. Fix that first. So definitely, I mean, listening back to your own stuff when you get into this is the most important thing you can do, I think, because it's, that's essential to reviewing anything. That's what players do for their demos. It's what you should be doing for your commentary. So VOD review massively. VOD review with the people you cast with as well. Talk to the people you cast with. I was warned early on, like, don't worry about the people on the internet and what they say, because they don't do broadcasts for a living. So their opinion is much less valuable. Talk to people who are also doing this activity, because their opinions are informed. Now, that doesn't mean ignore things from the internet, because viewers are also intelligent, right? People who think viewers and Reddit's just there's validity in people's arguments sometimes. Sometimes it's just going to be junk, but there are intelligent people out there who have informed opinions. Why? Because they're listening all the time, like you should be doing to yourself. Yeah. So again, VOD review. But I think important things for a play-by-play, before you get into things like stage games and, grand finals of events, like, each of those moments has a different set of circumstances that you can focus on and prepare for. And those aren't things you want to worry about if you're getting into this space. What you should be worrying about right now is being emotionally invested, because if you're bored, people can tell, right? If you're overly excited, or if you rub the people the wrong way, they might not enjoy your casting, but they'll still keep watching. If you're boring, people will close the stream.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, just don't be boring. Don't make it about yourself. People are watching a game. They're not there for you.
That is so important. Talk to me more about that one.
Yeah. There will come a time where you'll get, in Counter-Strike, we're lucky. If you get 16 zeros, 16 ones, well, that's a good chance through the first 10, 15 rounds. When a game is a total blowout, once you get good at casting, you'll realize when you can start to inject a bit more of your humor, when it is appropriate to talk about things other than the game. Because again, this is tied into that idea of like entertainment overall, right? If the game is not entertaining the viewer, then it becomes your job as the commentator to become the entertainment. That's a philosophy I believe in. So don't do it all the time, and don't do it over good games, or else you'll rightfully upset people. But if you see a space or an opening, tech pauses, for example, right? That's one of those classic examples of where I think Counter-Strike talent shines, where it's like, we've got a 40-minute tech pause and casters will just keep talking. And sometimes it's going to be about the game. Some people have different strategies to fill that time. That's when Mohan and I have always gone into like podcast mode. And that's what we call it. We call it podcast mode. It's when we talk about the thing. This is why we always, when we're out in cities, we have the pleasure to travel to. Like, that's why we go and do things. That's why we go explore cities. It's why we go climbing. It's why we try food in different restaurants, because then all of a sudden that becomes content, right?
Yeah.
It's an enjoyable thing to do on its own, but when you need it, it's right there to talk about. Whether it's a tech pause, whether it's just a slow match or a slow map. It's a weird thing, but like, when I started casting, I feel like I was a much less interesting person. I was only about Counter-Strike and nothing else. Counter-Strike, video games, and that's it. Which means all you can talk about is Counter-Strike and video games, which isn't a problem when you're a caster, when you're a Counter-Strike caster specifically. And But when you have so many more interests, or when you do activities that are interesting to talk about, or at least you can make them sound interesting, well, then suddenly you're just like a more full person. And I think that's when like you become an entertainer more than you become a Counter-Strike caster. And that's important. It's important to be an entertainer.
So you can say that CS:GO or working on this craft actually developed your personality.
Immensely. Yeah. I
You
would
do a
say I'm,
lot. You do a lot more nowadays than you did
yeah.
before you were involved in
Yeah.
this.
And, you know, partly because of like the opportunities that Counter-Strike has given me to travel the
Yeah.
world. But additionally, the people that it's put me in the same room as. Launders has helped me grow as a person immensely. I've always, you know, we've kind of got this relationship where like neither, you know, we're both neither of us have siblings.
Okay.
So it's the closest thing I've ever had to kind of like an older brother, because he is 3 years older than me.
Wait, he is?
Yeah, 2 or 3 years older.
Nah, because you got me, by the way. I was on Wikipedia and I saw your age. I'm like, nah, they're lying. Nah,
Yeah,
this
people think
guy.
I'm younger than I am.
Yeah,
Right?
I would give you like 23, 24, dude. I'm so sorry.
That's
I would
crazy
give
to
you.
me.
Like,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
29. So that means
29,
Londres is
yeah.
30 what? 32?
31 or 32.
My gosh.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give him that as well. Yeah.
No, he looks good for his age, for an old man.
Understandable. Have a nice day.
But yeah, that's why I grew my
Continue.
mustache, man. Because
Oh,
imagine me
really?
without a mustache, I would look 22.
Oh, I saw you with like a shaved head, no mustache.
Yeah, my buzz cut. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what happened to this guy? What? And then you bring a mug from Rick and Morty. Like, you're not making this easy, man. You know.
Ebbs and flows, man. Ebbs and flows. You know? Character development, dude. That's what we're all about. But
And that's
yeah,
yeah. Tell me.
Mohan has, you know, he's the guy who, because like I grew up in a super small town, man. I wasn't exposed to different types of food. I wasn't exposed to different, like,
How small?
you know, I'm from when up until 10 years old,
Yeah.
I lived in a village that was like 500 people.
Oh, how was the internet?
Non-existent, dial-up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then, I mean, like, you know, the closest Walmart was like a 30-minute drive away. And that town the village only had one store. In Quebec, we call them dépanneurs. It's like you can buy anything there: cigarettes, beers, you know, snack, just junk food, right? It's like lottery tickets. It's just like a corner store.
Enough?
It's like a 7-Eleven. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, so it had that and nothing else. It didn't have a post office. It had that and a church, you know? And then you had to drive like 20 minutes to the nearest town that had a gas station, or like 15. So, yeah,
and
man,
it's cold as hell, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's extremely cold where you live.
In the winter, yeah.
What about summer?
It's hot. It's like 30 degrees Celsius right now.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so in Quebec specifically, East Coast Canada, I mean, we have full seasons, man. We get spring, fall. Why did I just forget the seasons? We get spring, summer, fall, and winter.
It's okay.
I forgot the order.
You're not native, so don't worry about it.
We got there. So yeah, man. Where I live, it's also extremely humid. Quebec is, I think that always catches people off guard. I mean,
so you can go from
Canada's
30 to minus
30.
What is that? How do you live there? How do you survive?
Underground, actually. A lot of Montreal. I mean, we have underground like metro network and underground shopping malls and stuff like that. You just don't go outside as much. Go to the sauna.
Oh, I heard you love sauna.
Yeah, I love saunas.
When did it start? Like the passion for sauna?
Passion for sauna. I feel like at like spas here. Like me and my girlfriend and I went to a spa, like a Nordic spa here in Quebec one time, and you know, I like hot tubs and steam rooms. Like I knew about those, and those were nice.
But not the same village as you were born into, right?
No. I mean,
when I got to get a church and the sauna.
Yeah, so church and a sauna, dude. That's all they got. No, it's getting older. Like now, I lived outside of Montreal. I'm like 15 minutes from Montreal, so you know, now I'm in the city. Now I'm a city slicker. Now I travel and whatever. So yeah, man, just like a Nordic spa. Traveling as well. We went to Finland. We've been to Finland. So if you've been to Finland, you've been to Copenhagen, I feel like you start to get into saunas more. And then I just love the hot cold, like the thermal difference, right? Get in something super hot, take a cold shower after. Your brain releases a bunch of chemicals that makes you feel really good. It's addicting. So yeah.
How to get high on
Yeah, how to
showers.
get high
Interesting.
without drugs. Yeah, exactly.
Illegal, guys. Illegal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In your case, I'm imagining go run, right?
Oh,
We get that.
I love pain. It's weird
Yeah.
nowadays. I love pain. I used to run in Berlin at -15 on shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get runners, man. I understand runners high. I've had it a couple times,
I hate
but
it. I hate
oh really?
running. I hate it. And
But you just like the punishment.
it's like, so
Yeah,
imagine
you're sick, aren't you?
I told you, I play my
Yeah.
play. So the idea when I was in Berlin was mostly like I go to run. I did like 10 to 15 kilometers at 6 a.m. shorts and t-shirt. I was dying. I hated every single step of it. But as soon as I got home and I took a shower, I'm like, damn, this was the worst morning ever. There's
Yeah.
nothing now that can tip me off. I went through hell.
Okay.
You can't do
Yeah, sure.
anything
Yeah.
now to tip me off. I'm good.
The worst part of your day is over, so the
Yes.
rest of it's gonna be better.
And it's
I like that
impossible to
mentality.
tip someone
Sure.
that just went running at 6 a.m. on -15. It's impossible. It's not doable. But I hate it. But it's part of my life now. I have to do it.
Yeah, good.
It's
good,
my
good.
high.
Yeah. You're addicted, man.
So you were talking about things that you do at events, and this is something that I've witnessed in Blast, for instance. They like to take people to do stuff. Like you went to Abu Dhabi, you went for the media day, camels and stuff like that. You went for carts as well. That was an experience as well.
Hell yeah, we went go-karting. That's right.
Yeah, even though I have PTSD of cars, but okay, it's
You weren't the slowest person out there. That's
I
what matters,
wasn't.
man. You were not.
I beat the 14-year-old kid. Remember?
Yep. And his mom. Good for you, man.
I got this, man. I got this. I could probably run faster than I
Yeah, maybe.
But I really tried, though. I really tried.
Yeah. No, you faced something. Good for you.
I'm actually taking my license nowadays just because of that.
Oh, yeah?
I
good
almost
for
finished because of that.
Good for you. Good for you.
I remember your face when you were like, "Oh, so you like to drive?" I'm like, no, I have PTSD. And I get in the car and you're like, "Wait, Asha, wait, we need to talk about this." I'm like, "No."
Yeah. Let me face my demons.
Yeah, exactly. Fine. We were talking about things that you usually do. Tell me about working with Blast. So I have some idea of what that is, but
Sure.
how much do you love Blast? Because it's like your playground, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very grateful for Blast just because they took a risk on us back in 2017, 2018. When Mohan and I at that time were just working like the DreamHack Open circuit, right? So we weren't really breaking into ESL as a duo. And we had DreamHack locked down, which was nice because their opens were a source of travel and a source of like all the DreamHack opens were at DreamHack festivals. So there was always at least like some kind of a crowd. So it felt like you were casting to crowds, even though we weren't at the Katowicas and the Colognes, etc. We weren't touching the IEM circuit at all or Pro League. And then Blast took a chance on us, right? Blast were the new competitors in the space, and they had this weird format at the time, right? They had 3 games on the same stage at the same time, which is crazy. It's crazy. I mean, it didn't make any sense. I will always respect Blast for trying something different, right? Yeah. Like, and I think that boils down to Nicholas Estrup, who's done a really good job of like creating different elements of their product and pushing boundaries. He's the guy who did, he's the reason that there was the players coming out of the stage at Blast Fall Finals, which is an amazing thing, right?
Yes.
So yeah, they needed a third duo because of the fact that 3 games went going at the same time. You need 3 duos. So they got the 2, they would get 2 popular duos and they would give us the 3rd spot. And if it wasn't for that format, then they wouldn't, maybe they would have used us here or there, but would we have been alongside those other commentators as frequently? I don't think so. So they gave us a shot. And then they very quickly, this is where I have nothing but respect and appreciation for Frederick Munksgaard, who has just recently left Blast. Yeah. He just did his last event in Washington. So for 5 years, we've been at Blast with Munksgaard, and Frederick is the guy who put us on our first grand finals. He, from the beginning, always told us, like, look, I believe in you guys. I think you're going to be something big. I think that you work hard. I like your style. I like you as, et cetera, et cetera. He believed in us the same way we believed in our duo. So I'll always be grateful for Blast because they gave us a platform in a space where it's hard to get those chances. It's only been in the last year that Harry and Hugo, for example, who have been partnering as long as we have gotten a chance to do a grand finals for ESL. We've been doing grand finals for Blast for 3 years now, right? So like to compare those opportunities just really shows that Blast believed in us, and they gave us that platform and they gave us that chance. So for that, I'm very grateful. I will always be grateful because I think it helped us, achieve. It helped us build like credibility, right? Because you can be a great caster, but nobody knows if you're going to choke in a grand finals until you actually get to do them.
Yeah.
Right. And they gave us their grand finals when they could have given it to somebody like Anders, who's very, very proven to be able to do that. They took the chance on the new guys. So I love Blast for that. I think Blast at the moment are experiencing a bit of change. I think that Blast in the last year have stepped away from hiring some like behind the scenes. I think Blast is facing like a budget issue, right? This is what happens with all companies in this space is first they come onto the scene and they grow and they go all out. And during the COVID era, I mean, Blast was hands down the better product, right? During the online COVID era, they went all in and it was phenomenal. Coming out of it, they kept all that. But like there's guys in the replay team that like the replay team is smaller. They lost their social media, their main social media guy, Alex Ringard, who now works for Vitality instead, right? Like there's things about Blast that I'm not happy about, but I'm not an employee of the company. So I'm not, I'm grateful because it's my platform. I love Blast because it's always going to be my platform, but I can't stand here and say that like they're a perfect company and that they only make good decisions and that they're currently making their best decisions. I wouldn't take this chance to defend them like that. I think they do some things better than anybody else in this space. And I think it's always going to stay that way for some elements. But if they're not careful, their competitors will surpass them. Yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah, bro. You want that heat?
No, it's good to like. I love that. Like being honest. I told you to be honest with me, and that is lovely. They do go the extra mile, and they provide us with moments that they're going to be unforgettable.
Well, to build you up, man. Like, look at you. Like, they took a chance on you, right?
Oh my gosh, that was the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah, like you killed it the first time that you did the Lisbon event. And that's when we all met you for the first time, right? Because again, back in that format, you would have they were doing like local language in the arena. So you were the face, I think, of like the Portuguese speaking talent, and you killed it to a point that we were all talking about you after that event. We talked to Blast a bit. Like, I mean, you're an amazing example, Akram, of somebody who took an opportunity with both hands and fucking hung on, dude, for dear life. And like, you knocked it out of the park to the point that like Blast can't ignore that. And look what they do. Blast gives opportunities to people who have an underlying talent. So yeah, you're another success story of Blast, I think. Where then you did fall finals. Then we went back to Portugal. We switched to English, but who was still on the stage?
I got it. That was
we
did the guitar moment as well. They trusted me. Like that was weird.
Well, I mean, not everybody's just gonna say, by the way, I can play your intro on a guitar if you want, right? This is what I'm saying, dude.
How crazy is that
above
shit?
And beyond.
I went to Frederick. I'm like, hey, I would like to play your theme on guitar. I'm like, wait, do you play guitar? I'm like, I might.
Yeah.
Can I? Like, bring the guitar. We'll see what you can do on the rehearsals. And we did it. And Nicholas was like, nah, we gotta have this. We gotta have this. And then I did the drum on Copenhagen. I don't know. They just believe in me. My dream, SCRAWNY, would be to get a major and get in with a riff with a flamethrower attached to the top of the guitar. That would be my dream.
Yes.
I know it's not legal. But I would kill to have a flamethrower on stage. That's all I want.
I feel like maybe it depends on where the major might be, right?
It's in Copenhagen.
Talking about laws. There's got to be some... Oh, okay, you mean the 24. Oh, the PGL one. All right. Sure. Yeah, Copenhagen would never let you have a flamethrower on stage. I feel like the Danes aren't about that.
No, they're not that crazy.
Yeah.
Unless it's like 11 p.m. I think at that time they're quite crazy. They're
yeah, if you bring it out on stage and just go for it...
Who's going to stop me?
Who's going to stop you?
I have a flame.
Exactly.
One of my favorite moments. I need to tell you this because it wasn't broadcasted as well. Like nobody saw this aside from people inside the venue. So we did a few games, and one of the games was Guess That Sound, and that is beautiful. It was Jonas, the guy that does the inside the arena entertainment, and he came up with the idea of playing on a headset the sound of a gun or something related with CS:GO. Someone hears it on stage and goes like, "I got it." And then you give the microphone to the person, and he has to mimic. And someone on the audience has to raise their arm, go on stage, and try to guess it. And it was the most lovely thing. Like, I remember a guy, it was the smallest kid, like 7, 8 years old. He went on stage. It was the AWP. And the guy's listening to that. He looks at me like, I got it. I'm like, come on, give it to me. And he goes like, pew! I'm like, dude.
Nope.
I don't know what version of CS:GO you're playing. Everybody's laughing like, give it to me again. And I show him and I'm like, oh, it's deep. And I'm like, yes, do it. Like, pew. Okay, yeah, that's the best we're gonna get. Like,
sure,
that was lovely.
He's
and
7.
That was Copenhagen, and that was at the beginning of the day. So that was the normal part of Copenhagen. By 11, SCRAWNY, 11, that's when you get people a little bit more crazy. And the guy comes on stage. He was kind of tipsy. And I'm like, I notice it. I'm like, oh, this is gonna go. I hate this. But come on. And he goes in and he picks the microphone. It was FaZe going into third map. I don't know with whom. I think it was Heroic, something like that. So it was the third map of FaZe versus something. And he goes like, if FaZe wins, I'll donate 1,000 euros to whatever charity they want. I'm like,
okay.
wait, you good? They're like, fuck yeah. I'm like, no, dude. And I take away the microphone. I'm like, no, you can't swear, dude. You can't say those things. You're on stage. I'm like, oh shit, my bad. I'm like, dude, we just talked about this. So, okay, I'm going to give it the microphone again, but please don't swear. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to behave. And I gave him the microphone. I'm like, so I'll donate 1,000 euros to whatever charity they want if they win. And he looks at me like, did I got it good? I'm like, yeah, you did. I'm like, fuck yeah. I'm like, dude, no. And instantly I listen, take him off.
Yeah.
So what I do to him without making a big fuss, I look at him, hey dude, can you do something for me? Can you do something like a little game? Just you and me. Like, yeah. Can you do this? And I raise my leg. I just raise my leg. And he does the same and he goes over the stage. Like he himself falls off stage. I'm like,
he's done, man.
Thank you so much. We're moving on. Yeah. And on my head, I'm like,
out.
yeah, that was beautiful. Move on. So
that makes me
in. Tell me.
Out. Okay, go on. Sorry.
No, tell me.
I was gonna say that that's one thing about what you do specifically with crowds, and I think Copenhagen as well, man. It's like that's, I like crowds that have some drinking going on, but man, sometimes in Denmark specifically at the Royal Arena, there's some very drunk people.
Yeah. 11 p.m. something like that. It goes wild.
Yeah. If things go on too late, I think like if the day goes too long, these people have just been drinking for like 5-6 hours. And I think I don't know. I'm not trying to put all Danes in one basket, but I think there's something cultural with Danes as well, where it's like they just get drunk.
It's a reality.
Yeah.
Can you imagine behaving so well for the entire year and you get that amazing event and the possibility of drinking?
Yeah.
And the cool thing about them, like if you come to Portugal and you find people that are drunk, oh boy, they're annoying. But Danes are weirdly the behavior is so good when they're drunk as well.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not my I've had like a mixed experience.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was going like on when you're crossing the street and the sign was red, and in Portugal if there's no car 1 a.m. like yeah, it's cool.
Oh.
And I was going over it, and the drunk guy from the Royal Arena stopped me, and I'm like, okay, is he drunk? Does he want a photo? Like, that's illegal, dude. Like,
bro.
Thank you, man. I'm gonna wait.
Sure.
Okay,
so they're well behaved. Okay, but here's the thing: is
yeah.
Danes are they're afraid of red lights. Okay, that's a cultural. Danish people
explain it to me,
dude. They are the most fearful people when it comes to crossing roads at the wrong time. Like you're saying, there's no car coming. If there's no car coming, it's 1 a.m. and it's a red light and you can see both directions and there's
It was
no
raining.
it only makes sense to cross the road.
Yes.
To not cross the road in those moments makes no sense. Now, if it's the middle of the day and there are cyclists and whatever, man, I will wait. I'm a patient person too. I will wait. But if you wait at those red lights, it makes no sense. It's nonsense. It's nonsense to wait, and yet they'll do it. They'll do it every time. Dude, when we were in Abu Dhabi, okay, we're in Abu Dhabi. Now, Abu Dhabi's got some amazing roads, 6 lanes of traffic, you know, open space. But it has so few vehicles, right? We are in the middle of the desert. We are stood at an intersection, 6 lanes of traffic. You look both ways. You're in the desert. You can see for kilometers. There are no cars coming as we're walking between the hotel and the venue. There's 5 Danes because Blast Production's all
exactly.
They're all Danish, right?
Yeah.
So I remember me and Launders just dying because we're walking back from the venue. There's a pack of like 5 or 6 Danes in front of us, and they're just waiting at the intersection. There are no vehicles. We're in the desert. There's nothing. There's nothing. And they're just waiting and looking and just holding for the green light. It's like, just cross the road. So we showed up, check both ways, cross the road, you know? But yeah.
Did they say anything?
You're right. They're well behaved. They're well behaved when it comes to crossing streets. Okay. But that exists at all times. In venues, I don't think they're as well behaved, but that's my personal experience.
Okay, but also you're Canadian.
That's fair.
Like you're the most behaved guy in the world. I'm from Portugal, so I'm in the middle.
Sure.
You know, we're not behaved, but we're not assholes, so it's in the between. So tell me something.
You got me. Yeah, you got me.
Can you feel that thing? Like, now I want to tip into that one, like Canadian, and people are always saying, oh, he's from Canada, so they're so well behaved. Is it real, or aside from hockey? I know you guys lose something when you go see those games. Yeah,
you give us sticks, man, we'll start beating each other. So are you asking if the Canadian stereotype is alive?
Yeah,
I think so.
You are in the safe space. You can be honest.
Yeah, I think so. I think parts of it, right? I think that like Canada as a country, maybe people, like, we have our problems. You know, there's still assholes. There's assholes everywhere. So there are assholes in Canada, 100%. I do think that we're polite. I think like we're polite in speech, and I think we're polite in manners. At least maybe I identify with that part of being Canadian because, you know, my mom raised me to be a gentleman and to be thoughtful and to be caring. And so like, I like to think that I'm a very polite person and I have manners and I have good table etiquette. And you know, I think of other people like but that might also just be, as we talked about, my emotional side, right? I'm very empathetic. So I don't like being bothered by other people. I make sure to not bother other people myself. I would like to think that I make my work environment nothing but a positive space. I try to never contribute to like negative feelings in the workspace. You know, you've shared green rooms with me. I like to think that I walk in there and kind of kick up the energy in a good way. And then if I don't, you know, if people are tired, or I'm a caster, man, we work half of the day. Okay. So I know when I walk into a green room for the second shift and analysts have been there for 6 hours already and they've got another 6 hours coming, I try to be positive and bubbly and happy and get them going, you know, to give them that extra kick. And if I don't get it back, I'll let off. You know, I don't want to be annoying. I think that's the Canadian in me.
But don't you feel like when you get inside of a green room, at least from Blast experiences, everyone is so damn polite and so happy, and so it's like everything is pink. I just love it.
Except for Pimp. That guy's a dick.
Wait, what?
No, I'm just playing, man. He's in all the best ways. Pimp's one of those people who, when I first started working with Jacob, I hated him. I didn't like him at all.
Really?
Yeah, we didn't get along. I don't think we understood each other. Like, you know, I'm a sensitive person. So for me, if you're gonna make jokes about me at my expense in front of other people, we better have a good relationship. You know, but I think Jacob's the kind of guy who, that's how he shows friendship. Is he makes jabs and he makes jokes and he'll tell you to shut the fuck up. Which is like, for me at first was very
shocking.
weird.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to deal with that. So I'm just like, okay, like this guy's, I say, what's up everybody? And he goes, shut up. So I'm not going to say hello to that guy. That's how it was at first. But then I started to understand him. And now I think that Pimp and I have a really good relationship, which is why I call him an asshole. Because in the off chance he sees this, he's gonna laugh and appreciate that.
There you go.
But no, the Blast green room is. I mean, I think that look at Blast's hires, and it doesn't often change, right? And I remember that Frederick, when we first got into the space, really hammered that home. That he said, like, I want to build a space here where it is nothing but a positive work environment. Because the mood in the room for broadcast is so incredibly important. If we go back to the start of this conversation, I said that, like, your emotions and your energy and your entertainment, that's above all else. And between myself and a co-caster, you have to have good vibes. But people can feel the energy between the analyst desk and the casters.
Yeah.
And even if they don't see it themselves, we share a green room, we share that workspace. So everybody has annoying coworkers. That's just like a reality of life, right? But I will say that the group of people I work with in Counter-Strike, that's the best work environment I've ever had. And even when I go over to ESL and I work with people I don't regularly get to spend time with, it's also a really good space. So I'm proud of the Counter-Strike talent, because I feel like right now, and you look in the past of CSGO talent, there's definitely been people that butt heads and don't get along, etc. But it feels like everybody, for the most part, gets along right now. And unless people are just talking shit behind my back and I don't know about it, I think people like me too. So, it feels nice to be accepted and welcomed and celebrated in that space. And within Blast, because they don't make a lot of changes, we have a very, like, protected group, right? And I'd like to think that you felt that when you came in too. Like, we welcome people who aren't there as often. We want to make sure that it's a good mood, because if you're having a fun time before the show starts, you're going to transfer that energy into the broadcast.
100%.
And then it's contagious, right? When you do some epic crowd moment right before you pass over to the analysts, who then pass to the casters, like, all of that stuff is intertwined, and we all build each other up in a positive way for that reason.
That's what I've noticed. Everybody is building the same building.
Yeah, because broadcast over everything. That's the rule, man. It's the show is what is most important. So,
but it's not
check your
fake.
ego at the door. No.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not fake, and people really care for each other. It's not just while I'm here, I'm gonna do my best to make SCRAWNY like a good guy, and as soon as I'm out of here, like, screw that guy. No, like, for instance, when I got to Copenhagen for fall final, when Heroic won, that was a beautiful moment. That was a week after the date I was supposed to get married, but I didn't. So that was a 15-year-old relationship that went down the drain. That was I was demolished. I couldn't breathe. I was smiling with all I could, but I was dead inside. And James Banks, was aware that I was going to get married. He was aware of that. And once I get inside of the plaza on that hotel that we go to, I go in and there's a lot of people from Blast. Everybody's having fun. I'm like, I don't think I'm ready for this. I just want to put the bag and just and then finally get back in and smile. And James sees me and we were talking a little bit and it was like, hey, how was the wedding? And I was like, so the answer I did was like, man, it was so good I didn't win to. And he instantly realized, like, oh shit. So everybody around us looks at me like I'm gonna start asking questions. I'm gonna dive into this topic to understand what happened. I need to understand why he didn't get married. James pulls off the best moment I've ever seen in my life. I don't know if he did like by chance or just because James is James. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you understand how smooth he was, because he looks at me like, "Hey, dude, you gotta watch this," and he pulls his pants down because he just did the Vegeta tattoo on his leg.
Yeah. Okay.
And he knows I'm a major weeb like anime, because he knows I do a lot of anime, as you can see, like the animes that I do. So I have these. So he knows I'm a major weeb. So he pulls down his pants like, look at Vegeta. I'm like, what the? I couldn't process. And out of a sudden, I'm like, I forgot about it.
Yeah, good distraction.
And only when I got into the venue, I was like, that son of a gun.
Yeah.
Like, people really care about each other. It's such a beautiful space to work in. I'm not saying that other esports are not that good, but CS, I was like shocked by how good it is. So if I may ask you, we're talking about good moments. Can you tell me the best moment you ever felt as a caster, aside from the major? Because I'm not going to ask you that one. That's an easy one.
Sure, yeah, low-hanging fruit. best moment outside of that.
In CSGO.
I mean, I don't want to say they all start to like blend together because that would be awful, right? To not be able to look back and like pinpoint things. I think
could be an interview, could be a host. I know you've done those.
Yeah, sure.
Could be one of those moments outside of the thing. Could be go-karts, watching Ashram go against the wall. It could be
there's
anything.
but there's like we do so much fun stuff. That's just
what
amazing.
about a top 3?
Okay.
Can I put the top
All right,
3?
yeah, sure. So I think there was a time during the IEM Rio major, which was my second major, where we're in Rio. It's a beautiful place, man, and bless ESL for hooking us up with a really nice hotel where you had the hotel, which obviously has like, it's walled in, private, nice place, 5-star, pools, everything you could ask for inside the walls of the hotel, right? And then outside the front was a highway, and on the other side, beach. Literally 2-minute walk from the beach. Wow. So we're on morning shifts. When we do Blast, we're usually on the evening shifts, but with ESL, we were on the day shift, which meant we were getting back at the hotel at like 3 p.m. So we're done for the day. It's 3 p.m. We're done for the day. You have no more responsibilities when you're off broadcast, right? Your only responsibility is like, don't get fucked up. But we cross the road. We go to the beach. We just bring some towels. We bring a 6-pack. We bring a Frisbee. We're just hanging out. And I remember we were just sitting there at this the most amazing sunset I've ever seen. It was me, Mohan, Maui Snake, and Hugo. We ran out into the ocean, and the waves were crazy. Like, there was red flags. You're not supposed to be in the ocean. But we were just all out there fighting the ocean. We're like jumping through the waves and just playing. Just like playing. Kids, having fun like kids, man. Just playing like kids in these waves and like just looking at each other and like smash, seeing Mohan get like sucked, because Mohan's tall, right? He's tall and he's got long legs. So the waves keep like ripping him all the way further out. And then, so seeing Mohan just like roll in the sand and get owned by waves, it was one of those moments where I remember just being out in the ocean, turning, seeing those 3 guys with this beautiful sunset behind them, turning back to the beach, seeing Shocks and all the other guys just hanging out in the sand, drinking some beers, not partying, not getting crazy, just enjoying a moment. Yeah. And I remember just bobbing in the ocean and thinking like, man, how did I got here. I made it. Like this is because of Counter-Strike. Yeah. I'm in Rio de Janeiro, jumping in the ocean, watching a sunset with all of, with some of my best friends, my genuinely best friends. And it's all because of Counter-Strike. And I'm being paid to be here. Yeah. Like, I made it, like that to me, it's like, I don't know how long I'm going to cast. I don't know how long I will do this job. You never know when your last event will be, right? For a lot of people, right? I've seen people implode in this space. I've seen, you never know when your peak is, right? For all I know, my best event has happened. And that's something I like to keep in the front of my mind because I think it helps you appreciate things when they do occur. And that's just one of those moments of like, didn't have to do with commentary, didn't have to do with Counter-Strike. It was just a life moment where I was like, wow, I'm so lucky. So incredibly lucky. So that I put that up on my list, man. That's deep. Like I said, like with the Paris major, which is something like I can go back and watch on video at any point. You can relive the commentary moments as many times as you want, which is what our brains love to do, right? But that was one of those moments where I'm like, there's no video of this. There's no documentation. There's no fans. There's no audience. There's 10 people enjoying a beach, and we're all here for the same reason, which is really just a coincidence. All that actually matters is that we are here in this moment, and we're all feeling very present, and it was just playful and fun. So, yeah, that's definitely a highlight of mine.
I love that one. That is a deep one. Damn. I love that one. I want to share with you a few that I found. I'll be the first one.
Get her done. Quick old 16-1 now. Safe. Running back into that ace I caught on out from Modem. Drop inside here. Ooh-wee. Kill back on the back of bomb side. Modem. Ooh, that's a double. You see that one? God damn. 16-1.
16-1. Woo! Still a threat.
All right.
Okay, man. You know what's the most beautiful thing? So I want to clear something up, bro.
Okay.
Caster cams, right? Just us and our reactions being filmed and posted.
Love it.
That's something I love as well, right? And I think
Yeah.
that when they started coming out from Blast, people started to realize that, like, man, I'm in it. When I'm commentating, I am in it. I'm in the moment. I'm enjoying it, and I'm being genuine with my emotions, etc. Right? Because you can see me physically invested. That clip from that day specifically, we didn't know, because people have talked about caster cams getting posted for years, right? And Blast even said, like, this camera is for caster cams. We're recording you guys for events and events and events ahead of that one, and they never posted a damn thing. So we just assumed, like, that's not going to happen anymore. That is the first video. That spring, I think it was the spring showdown, or it was spring groups. Pretty sure it was the showdown. Yeah, it was spring showdown. We didn't know that the camera was on. We didn't know that was being captured. That entire time that we're in front of this, you know, I like to watch that caster cam video specifically, because nowadays you don't change I'm not changing my behavior for caster cams, but now you know it's on, so you make sure that you sit up a little straighter. You make sure you don't pick your nose or whatever, right? But that clip is just one of those examples of, like, you know, earlier you asked me talk about play-by-play, and I said, you know, you have to be an entertainer. That is a 16-1 on an online game of Counter-Strike between two teams that are massively mismatched, one of which was a last-second stand-in, and it's like 10 p.m. local time or something like that, right? Because we're playing NA games from Europe at that time. So, like I said, when I show up for work, I try to be that energy. I know that anybody in production has been there since the start of the day, has already gone through 2 best of 3s, and now I show up for the 3rd and 4th. If I can be that ball of contagious energy, then all of a sudden production is that little bit more excited to finish the day, right? It's like they know Scrawny and Launders showing up is the second half of the day. Like, and I just think in that moment, like, you know, again, there's viewers at home who are all watching. Usually you'd tune out of a 16-1, right? But if you can at least make it funny ahead of time, then if you're entertaining, they'll stay. And the production, they've got to watch the whole game anyways. So you cast for those people. You cast for the people who are sticking around. You cast for Modem's fans, right? Modem is a guy in NA who, you know, what if his parents are watching? Because that's the biggest chance he's ever had versus Furia. Yes, he's losing, but you can still have fun with a situation like that. Yeah. So to me, it's one of those clips where it's like, listen, man, I got a lot of, you know, you said it yourself, bro. Play-by-plays are a little crazy. I got a lot of characters in my head. I got a lot of voices in my head. I got, you know, I'm a creative person. I have a history in acting. Like, I'm outgoing in that sense, you know, like I think I have that creative play, and I'm comfortable with those kinds of moments thanks to Launders. I think that what goes under the radar there is what Mohan says right at the start, where he says, "Get her done." And he doesn't say it loud. He doesn't say whatever. It's just that little jab. And I don't know if it's in the clip, but right ahead of that, this is what Mohan is so good at. I messed up. You know, we talked about speech accuracy. Yeah. The reason he said "get her done" is because I said something with like a little country accent. You know, like I like slurred my words. I misspoke somehow, and he chose that moment to jab me, to make fun of it. Right? Get her done. And so, all right, you want to make fun of me? Watch this. Yeah, right. And then I go off. And then once I see him laughing and I see that reaction, sometimes when you're casting, you don't know if you're actually being funny because you don't see the audience, right? So it's like you just have to bounce off of each other's energy. And I know Mohan's like he's a tough audience in a good way, right? He doesn't laugh at my bad jokes. He only laughs at my good stuff. So when I see him reacting like that, man, I thought, all right, listen, I'm gonna just send it. And keep sending it, because why not? So, yeah, it's funny. I had when we were in Paris, we did like a meet and greet for Mohan's sponsor, Ace Zone, and you know, people come up and say, "Yo, I love your commentary. Yo, I love your comment. You know, I like this about you. I like that about you. Like, can I get a picture? Can you sign this? Whatever." Everybody has different requests, and sometimes people just want to talk in different subjects. And one guy came up and he said, "Bro, my buddy couldn't come to the major. You're his favorite caster. Can we take a video? And can you give me the 16-1?" Yeah, and I was like, yeah, I can do that 100%, man. Wow. So, you know, that's one of those moments. Like, I think you have to remember that some people are going to remember you for your biggest casting moment, right? It's going to be a player that gives you an amazing Counter-Strike clip on a huge stage and you smash it with some crazy play-by-play. People might remember you for that, right? But there's also somebody out there who will look at that moment and say, that's my favorite clip of all time in Counter-Strike casting. And that's when, you know, I just repeat myself where I say, like, we're entertainers. And you can make fans and you can elevate Counter-Strike with more than just, you know, traditional sports commentary. You can elevate that with entertainment. And so that's a great clip for that.
That's a stamp on what
That's a great clip, man. Yeah. That's a great clip. It's
it is. I love this one.
It's so ridiculous that like people are gonna remember that. I don't even, you know, you said, can you explain it? I can't, man. I don't know. I was just on one that day.
Don't worry. We got another one. And this is a special one because you do the same. That there's a little break on the communication. And
okay.
Launders doesn't forgive.
Damn. Here's out that B-side. Good read by Nexa, of course. Just, you know, takes the data, assesses it.
That's the data.
Same shit, right? You see the formula now.
Laughing at me. Everybody's laughing at me, and it's because of you, Launders.
What they do with the data?
Oh, data, bro. You process that. First, you got to put it in your computer, and when it comes out, you got your answer. It's magic, really.
It's like a scientist.
UKCS, we still got hope.
Yeah. So you see the formula, right? That's
exactly.
That's the synergy, man. That's the synergy. And he knows when to push it further. Like you look at the Modem clip, he says, just get her done, and then I go off a cliff. In this one, I make one quick comment. He keeps with the British accent. He keeps on it because he knows that if he, you know, Mohan is, you need someone who knows like how to push your buttons in the best way. And Mohan knows how to get the best out of me. Right. You said like, what do we do in terms of like preparation for our casting and how do we talk? So you just got to like, that's trust right there, man. That's trust and synergy and friendship, right? Like your friends bring out the best of you and he knows how to get me going, you know, get me excited. He knows how to make me hype. He knows how to make me goofy. He knows how to make me take risks. Like we've spent 6 years of our lives traveling the world together, doing this job, talking into microphones side by side. So I think that's the product of just being comfortable with someone.
I love this combo because you realize that even though he's the not the shy one, but the quietest one, he's the guy that knows how to make the loud one go loud again when he wants.
Yeah, dude. Mohan operates from the shadows.
It's like,
okay,
he's looking at you with this, like, okay, let me make Launders a little bit louder. You know, he commands sometimes, and then
literally that,
to an interesting one. What is it? There you go. Oh, there you go. Yes.
M4A4. Wow.
Your Blast TV Paris Major Champions, Team Vitality!
You left him hanging though.
I needed to make sure the moment was done. That's my brother, bro.
When you look at this, what went through your mind? Like, when you were talking about the beach, you were talking about, I've done it.
Yeah.
Is it the same?
Yes. You know, I mean, the thing is, man, like the emotions in those moments are just running so high. You know it. When you're injecting yourself that much, when you're being that intense with yourself, it is a full body experience and commitment, right? Like you're straining your body. Every muscle in your body is, and that physical act, like that physical act, I think for me personally serves as like a trigger for emotions.
Yeah.
Like it's just everything is boiling up until that trophy lift. And then obviously like the beauty of the moment, we talked about all the storylines. I'm trying to put myself mentally in the shoes of all these players who have achieved something, you know, that for all we know, again, like that's the most amazing moment for any of those players' lives. That's the best moment of their life. Up until this point, that could be the best moment in Zywoo's life, right? And so that's why any level of emotion that goes over the top, in my opinion, is justified, because that's his moment, right? Like I've had conversations with Cadian after the fall finals back when he won it and he did his trophy lift. And we kind of talk how like, man, our careers are intertwined like that. You know, I did his trophy lift in Denmark. So he watches that clip back all the time because it's him lifting the trophy, which means he hears me doing it all the time, etc. So I think about that. You know, I think about the fact that Zaiwu might go watch that trophy lift and be elevated emotionally because he hears the casting. So, you know, you ask like, is that an I made it moment? You know, I want people to just take a second, right? And like, think about my journey as a person, as a commentator. I've been doing this for 6 years, 7 years almost, right? People always talk about the shit we miss at home, you know, weddings, birthdays, Valentine's days, Christmas, whatever, events. We miss all that stuff. A lot of our life is spent on the road, and a lot of our life is spent chasing those kinds of moments. When you look at the list of casters who have ever done a major grand final, some of the biggest, most legendary names on that list, like James and DDK, right? They've done 2, if I'm not mistaken, 2, maybe 3 major grand finals. And that, in my mind, those are legends. We're talking about Bardolph and DDK. You look at Anders and Semler, same, it's a few. Sato and Henry, again, it's a few. For all I know, that's the only major final that I will ever cast. Because we know nothing. There is no certainty in this space.
Yeah.
So if that is the peak of my career in regards of achievements, you know, again, you can have a showdown online cast with a Modem 16-1 and that might be their favorite moment instead. And I love and cherish that moment as well. But in terms of accomplishments and accolades, something that I can point to in a history book, that 16-1 versus Furia is not in any history book. But the Paris major is the last CSGO major of all time. And it was me on that grand finals. And it took me 6 years to get there. And 6 years ago, I didn't deserve a chance like that. But I've worked hard and I've improved. And I've done it the whole time with, you know, a best friend and a brother in Mohan. And for him as well, I mean, man, his journey's even longer. He's been casting for years ahead of time. And like we said, you know, with his lack of natural talent as a commentator, imagine how much more that means to him, how much harder he had to work in order to get there. And we did it together. We did it together and we got there and we smashed it, man. You know, I think my Paris intro, like humble brag, I think that's the best major grand finals intro in CSGO history. And I am saying that out loud. I feel like, ooh, man, careful. You're being an egomaniac. But at the same time, I can take a step back and say, well, that's because I prepared it for days in advance. I rewrote that multiple times. I worked hard to make sure that the introduction to the game would be memorable, because you never know what quality of game you're going to get. And if you look at the competitiveness of that grand finals, it wasn't crazy. It wasn't that good of a finals. You know, there was a nice little comeback on Nuke, but everybody kind of felt a CT Nuke comeback coming. That's not a surprise. But the things that you have in control as a play-by-play, introduction and a trophy lift, you have no clue what's going to happen in between. It could have been 2 16-0s, and then you'd be left feeling dissatisfied because at no point did that game give you the dopamine hit of what you hoped for, right? If I dreamed for years of a CSGO major final, and finally that dream, I'm living it in that moment, and then it disappoints you with like a 16-0, 16-0, you know, that'd be soul crushing. But that's why you have to rewire your brain and just appreciate the fact that nobody can take that from you. I cast the last CSGO major grand final. And that's a cold hard fact, bro. Like, you know, and that it's not the most competitive game I ever cast. It's not the best grand finals I've ever cast. But it's an achievement. You know, it has a certain weight given to it. And I've put enough effort in preparation to make a memorable moment before the game even started. I didn't need a Zaiwu 1v4 to give you guys a clip to remember, because I make sure to put in the effort in the places that I can. The things that are in my control, I'm ready for. And then if Zaiwu gave you a 1v4 in a Paris major grand final, trust me when I say I had something special. You know, like I would have been ready, but I'm not going to force it because I'm going to cast more Zaiwu clips. You know, I'm not going anywhere as far as I'm concerned.
It's not about you.
It's not about me. Yeah, exactly. Nice. It's not about me in that moment. So you can't rush those things, but you know, That's like a I made it moment with Launders afterwards. When, first of all, it's just like a hug between two brothers. Emotionally, that's like we shared this moment right there. But then when we went to break and you see Mohan grab me by the shoulders, man, he yelled at me. He said, "We beat the game. We beat the game." Go back, man. At the start of this interview, I told you my buddy Daniel and him and I, how we said, when I get to LEM, I can quit. Well, that wasn't beating the game. Getting to LEM wasn't beating it at all. But getting to a major grand final cast, that does feel like, okay, we beat the game.
We beat the game.
You know, we reached, there's nothing, again, in terms of achievements or like, there's nothing bigger than a major grand final. So we did it. We beat the game in that regard. The last one.
Because Blast believed in you back in the day.
There we go.
And you put in the work.
Then, yeah. And I would like to think as well that like eventually maybe we would have gotten that shot with a different TO. PGL I think is an open book. ESL, Machine and Sponge are fucking phenomenal casters. Yeah. So there's no, there's no hard feelings there. I understand the space, right? Like that's why they didn't do the Blast one. I would like to think that we are good enough casters that eventually we would have gotten that shot regardless. But I do like the fact that it was with Blast because we worked in like a symbiotic relationship over the years to get to that point. So Blast does their one and maybe only major. We do our one and maybe only major CSGO grand final. The fact that those two things come together, it's like a perfect way. Like if Blast disappeared tomorrow, I could say like, well, at least 5 years of effort from them as a company and from us as commentators, it all came down to that moment. So yeah, when I rewatched that, bro, I think I just remember that whole day from start to finish. Very emotional day. And the crazy part with that clip, man, Blast has done a lot of caster cam videos, but they have never, ever released the trophy lift moment. They've never included that. They've always just done gameplay moments. And so that's one of those things where like, you see that, you see it's like an emotional hug. I'm crying afterwards. Bro, I cry after every trophy lift. Constantly, all the time. I cry before grand finals because it's a way for me to, I think, like burn off emotion, right? Like you can't start the game being too emotional because if you're not in control of your emotions when a game starts, then you're already at a loss. The whole point of commentary is that you wield emotion and story creation and all these things, right? So if you're going in and you're all jittery and nervous, that's a problem. If you're going in and you're just like overwhelmed, that's a problem. So when I cry, I feel like it burns off the excess and then I'm back in control. And so me crying after a trophy lift, again, that happened when G2 won in Abu Dhabi. That happened when Cadian won in fall finals. It didn't happen when Navi won Lisbon for some reason. But maybe I don't, it's like when it does, it's just, it occurs and it's never been shared or included. But for whatever reason, this was the one where I think like they decided to share that. And I'm glad that the first time a moment like that, which is very raw, to be honest, some men aren't comfortable crying at all, let alone having that shared with the world. So for me, I'm okay with it, but I'm glad that it happened for the first time on a day that was that important to me. Again, I'll watch that clip for the rest of my life.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, right.
I know the feeling. I often go back to Lisbon with a guitar entrance.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, wow.
That's you, man. No one can take that from you. That's you.
You touch on a topic, and this is going to be my last one for you. You touch on a topic that almost broke me while you were talking. And I would like to pass it to you, because you're an emotional guy as well. When we're doing this sort of work, you have to sacrifice so much.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And that specifically, often I go watch that video, I'm like, this was something else. Like I played the theme of Blast on stage in the biggest avenue in the country.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, nobody has done this in esports. Nobody went in on the major venue on the country and played the theme of the game. And then a big speech and made a lot of people jump out of nowhere. But then I think I sacrificed things that shouldn't have been sacrificed. Do you look back and can you pinpoint something that you had to sacrifice that is heavy as hell?
I mean, I think I got lucky in some ways where my sacrifices really were made at the start of this because I kind of I kind of exploded a little bit at the start with the whole Reddit video thing. Like
Mhm.
before that Reddit video, it's not like I was casting ESCA at home on my own or so. I was casting nothing. I came out of nowhere. And I had a girlfriend and an apartment and my university degree and jobs all on the line at the time, right? We mentioned this whole social, I had a whole entire life path planned out. But then when that video popped up and blew up,
Mhm.
I was kind of presented a crossroads, that like I didn't know was going to exist. And in that moment, I had to make a decision to either pursue commentary and take all these other things and say like, no, this is my number one now. Because I think casting and esports, if you're not all in, it's much harder to make it. And in that moment, I thought to myself, okay, and I remember this vividly. When I woke up the next day, and that's the first time I had ever experienced any kind of like internet attention. I had a Facebook page where I would like talk to relatives. I never, I wasn't a content creator. I wasn't a streamer, but all of a sudden there was a ton of eyes on me and people who wanted to give me a chance in commentary. And I just remember thinking, there's got to be hundreds of people who wish this was them. There's hundreds of people who would love to be in my shoes right now. And I owe it to those people to take this chance. And that meant losing my girlfriend at the time who hated video games, who didn't, who like I had slowly gotten away from gaming until Counter-Strike kind of came in, right? Like, again, I was a console player. That stuff all kind of got left behind. Counter-Strike was like my last attachment. And then it presented an entire life path with no certainty, may I add you. I lost my girlfriend. I lost my apartment because I wasn't earning enough money to afford rent.
Yeah.
I moved back home with my parents who, like I said, I grew up an hour and a half away from the city. So I moved back home. I'm living in their basement, spending 10 hours a day doing European commentary, taking break for dinner, and then doing North American commentary for like $100. There's massive sacrifice for me at the start of my career, but then I set up everything else in my life in order to focus on CS. My current partner now, when I met her, she knew that CS was number one. And luckily for me, she's somebody who understands the sacrifices that I had to make within my career or within my personal life, to get that. And the friends that I still have from before esports, all of my best friends now are either in esports or it's the guys that listen, man, I'm going to disappear for a month. But when I come back to Montreal, we're going to hang out. We're going to get some beers. We're going to go climbing. We're going to chill. It's like the people that are still in my life are the ones that understand my job requires sacrifice. And I'd like to think that I make it up to them by being home and being 100% present. Because that's the one thing that I think people don't, we talk about the travel and the sacrifice and all of that, which is the negative part of this job. But I also have an immense amount of time off at home. When I am home, I don't have anything to do. Nothing that I don't choose to do, right? We can record podcasts. We can do YouTube content. We can stream if we want to. All these things are choices. But luckily for me, in my place at my career right now, I can afford to not have work when I'm home. So yeah, the fridge is full. I'm going to prepare dinner. My house is clean. I'll make time for the people when I am home. When I'm home, I'm 100% focused on appreciating this time, because when I leave next week for an entire month, everybody's life here goes on without me.
Yeah.
Right. And that can be scary. That can be problematic. But nowadays, I don't feel like I make sacrifice. I feel like I've done a good job of setting up my life to avoid it. Sometimes shit happens. You miss a birthday. You miss Valentine's Day. I got COVID last year or 2 years ago, and I wasn't even home for Christmas or New Year's. I got stuck in Denmark. So like I missed Christmas, which was like something that had never happened in this job before. But you just have to make sure that once you do get home, you make the most of it, because we do have a lot of free time. And for that, I'm grateful, super grateful. Yeah, man.
This is why I really wanted to talk with you on the first or second episode.
This
was
is why
like,
I knew, dude. Honestly, I knew having a conversation like this would be helpful, or like would just be enjoyable, because it's a great idea what you want to start here, man. And I just hope I contributed to the tone that you were looking for.
Oh, I think so. Because one of the greatest regrets I have while working with Blast is I'm so often on stage or thinking about weird shenanigans to bring on stage, because most people at home have no idea the amount of weird stuff I do on stage. So I'm so focused on that I hardly go into the green room. Lately, I've been trying my best to go there and be with you guys, hang out with you guys a little bit. But I'm so focused on that that I can't go back. I can't. I just can't. I have to pay attention to the game on the breaks. I need to be there. So I miss opportunities with you guys. I'm like, hey, why not talk with them individually and get to know them better and bring this content?
Sure.
And then I can jump into players. Like I really want to talk with Cadian and other players as well, as much as I can. Like this is my attempt at compensating the fact that I can't be with you guys while I'm on
Sure.
stage. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this as well.
I did. It was very fun. I think it's right up my alley. This is the kinds of things I like to talk about. So you have asked really good questions as well, man. Pulling up the video was nice. I like that. So good for you. Thank you for being prepped, because I appreciate that. But also, I just want to say, like, at the end of the day, man, you might not get a chance to socialize with us as much, but I think I speak for a lot of people that, like, at the end of the day, most of my respect comes from how good of a job we do, because broadcast over everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's important that we spend time with each other and whatever, make friendships and stuff. But if you're good at your job, you've already earned my respect. And in your case, dude, you're fantastic at it. So just, don't worry that we didn't get to spend time together, because the whole time I'm watching you on the screen. I mean, I'm up in the caster desk,
Yeah.
you know, on the stream that people at home don't really necessarily get to see all your contributions. But I know the reason that I get to do play-by-play to a crowd who is right there responding to every kill. It's like you build the energy in the room before I get to harness it and wield it, dude. So I think you and I actually have professionally a very important connection and like relationship. So yeah, don't worry if we don't get to talk too much at events, bro. We'll get to go karting every once in a while.
Let's go, man. Let's hit the wall, something like that.
yeah, let's crash out, baby.
Let's go, baby. Face the demons.
Straight up, man.
Well,
Yeah,
for you
keep
guys
that
back at
running, though,
home,
bro.
thank you so much for watching this. And tell me something. Last one. Who
Yeah.
would you like to see on the next episode?
Ooh.
Yeah, you get to pick, or at least
Who would you like to see? Ooh, who'd be a good choice?
yeah.
I'm trying to think about who you have like a good relationship with too, because that helps. I mean, you mentioned James, man. James
I
is
really want
you
James.
know-
He was on the break. He was with dogs in the middle of the country. So
yeah, who knows what James is up to, dude? James is a character, bro. He's always on a he's always on a quest or something. I think Pimp would be interesting, although I don't know if you could get him to kind of get too personal, because that's Pimp.
He's Danish.
Yeah, Maniac I think also has a beautiful way with words.
Mhm.
Any of the CS guys, bro, just tap into the Blast Gang. Talk to Freya. Nobody ever
Oh.
talks to Freya. She is impossible to get. Yeah.
Really?
She's
Why
like
do
the
you think so?
unicorn of CS content, because if you know Freya personally, she's
Yeah.
hilarious.
I've noticed
really-
that, but on desk you don't
Yeah.
see that.
Nah, there's broadcast Freya and then there's Freya. And
she's-
there's a reason
different.
everybody loves Freya, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, if the public got to see that version of Freya, they'd fall even more in love with her, I think.
Hey, I got a list now.
Yeah.
I asked the
Yeah.
name. Cool
Go
enough
hunting.
is that you didn't even mention Londers, but okay.
Launders has his own show, There's enough.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Screw you, Londers. Well, thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you soon.
Chill, man. Thanks.